From the HockeyFan.com studios, this is the Dump and Chase podcast. Stream the show on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. With your hosts, Sam Olmstead and Justin Irwin. The show starts now.
Daddy, what are you doing?
I don't know. Sam paid me $5 to read this. Show starts now.
Fans, and welcome to the Dump and Chase podcast, the only unofficial Youngstown Phantoms podcast that I am aware of. I'm Sam, and riding shotgun once again is my moderately sober co-host, Justin. It's been a bumpy start to the season for the show, but once again we fell victim to one of our most classic blunders. The most famous of which is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this. Every time we make plans and assume everything will work out fine, those plans are destined to blow up in our face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had enough problems, I think, with episode 1. We should have known.
Yeah.
And by the way, nice Princess Bride quote.
You know, that's got to be a record. That may be the quickest into a season I've worked in a Princess Bride reference. We save that for later in the season when we're getting low on content. But I went to the Princess Bride pretty early on this year.
Well, with the gap in the schedule, you know.
Yeah, got to fill it somehow. All right, so thank you, everybody, for tuning in on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. This show is brought to you by the incredible physicians and staff at Advanced Podiatry. For appointment information, including same-day appointments, office locations, services offered, and treatments provided, check out advancedpodiatry.com. So a lot of hockey this past weekend, but the Phantoms didn't play any of it. That's right, we're still in purgatory until October 13th, so I guess we'll start this episode with a couple of roster notes. We have seen a couple of moves, actually there's been quite a few moves, but it seems like the moves cancel each other out several times over. A couple of them to note, starting with defenseman Daniil Dolzhenko being dropped from the protected list, and a 06 birth year from the New Jersey Rockets of the North American Hockey League, defenseman Kuzma Voronin was added. Now, this is interesting because right now the Phantoms on their import list, they can have a maximum of 6 as long as 2 of those are Canadians. They are at the max of 6, so I'm not sure if Dolzhenko maybe was added to the affiliate list or was dropped outright, but for him to go, for Voronin to be added to the list, also being from Russia, Dolzhenko, there we go, was dropped.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this plenty of times before where it's kind of a juggling act at the beginning of the season until you are more certain who your main players are going to be. But we really don't know and probably won't until we see line charts.
Forward Tyler Catalano, who I guess started the year on the affiliate list, was added to the protected list. This was going to happen at some point. There was really no question of whether, Tyler was going to be on the team or not. That wasn't a question. In order to make room for him being added, forward Owen Carlisle was added to the roster of the Oklahoma Warriors of the North American Hockey League. I mean, Owen Carlisle was somebody we basically had penciled in was going to be on the roster this year. But yeah, it looks like at this point he will be spending some time in the null.
Yeah, I mean, he was not somebody I expected to be sent away so soon. I don't know how this is playing out, so we'll see. We've seen guys kind of bounce back and forth. That's a kind of a long drive, though, if you're called back up. So, but we've seen it happen plenty. So best of luck to him.
All right. So throughout this episode, which we have dubbed Coach's Corner, You are going to hear our conversations with Phantoms assistant coach Brandon Gotkin, associate head coach Andy Contois, and head coach Ryan Ward. Now, Justin, you were not there for the Gotkin episode that was recorded earlier in the day while you were at work. You kind of bounce in and out after that, but just to point that out to everyone. I'll tell you what, after doing all this, I'm thinking we might do it again, maybe around the holidays when there's a break. Just from outside observations, the Phantoms' new equipment manager, Stephen Smith, seems to have some personality to spare. That could be a fun one for later on down the road.
We've not gotten a lot of the, auxiliary staff. So, that is something that would be kind of entertaining, I think.
Yeah, it's I've some of the stuff I've seen on social media that could, good old Texas boy, that could be an interesting one. All right, so with that, we'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll have a chat with Phantoms assistant coach Brandon Gotkin. You're listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
And we're back here on the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. Our first guest, this is his first time on the show. He is an Erie, Pennsylvania native. He went from being a Rambler to a Laker to a Black Bear to a Phantom, now spending his second season on the bench with the Youngstown Phantoms. Last season was not hard to miss. He's a pretty big guy, and he was the only one with hair. I am, of course, talking about assistant coach Brandon Gotkin. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Sam, thank you for having me on. It was nice to be the only guy with hair last year because everybody was able to tell who I was.
Well, now, Ryan and the other, I don't want to say the second Brandon now has kind of screwed that up. So
yeah,
now Andy, now Andy's the odd man out.
Exactly.
So we'll start off light. We'll go with kind of a human interest question here. So it's game day. You're driving to a game. What do you got cranking on the car stereo?
That's a good question. It kind of depends on the mood. I love country music. I love EDM, a little bit of rap. Sometimes your podcast once in a while.
Thank you.
We'll mix it around pretty good. I live about a half hour south in Columbiana, from the Cabelli Center. So I definitely have some time to kill on the ride. So it got to keep it fresh and mixing it up is always good.
Well, I'm in Salem, so you're about 10 minutes east of me. So
yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty eclectic mix there. That's impressive.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard somebody say I like country and EDM before. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start. Now, last offseason, you came in pretty late to the game. What was the difference coming in this season where you were there for the entire process, going through the draft and going through main camp and all of that? What was the difference between this year and last year?
Yeah, honestly, there was a lot of similarities just with the changing with, Ryan Ward coming in and kind of getting familiar with him. The new city isn't so new now, and kind of being through every building and everything like that, and through man camp, like you said, is not as of a surprise. But just kind of getting on the same page with terminology and kind of how we want to play. So it's been a kind of a little bit of a busier summer than we all hoped and expected, but it was good to just kind of go through your summer checklist of updating video and getting some new ideas, and then as well as just kind of getting familiar with Wardo and Denny and kind of seeing how we want to steer the ship here.
Like we said before, you're coming into a game, it's game day, you're driving to the arena, you get to the arena. As far as the locker room pregame and all that, what are your responsibilities?
Yeah, so I help Wardo with the forwards, and then the penalty killer, my two things. So, and then we all kind of share with, our prep for Madison and all that stuff. So kind of depends on the week. We'll have, Denny, myself, and Andy will kind of take turns with the pre-scout stuff. So, tonight will be just watching Madison and kind of gathering some ideas as to how we want to attack it. But from a day-to-day, I kind of focus on the forwards, and then the alley kill is kind of my main thing. And then, hopefully more times than not, we're killing some 6-on-5. So that's my other kind of little niche that I focus on. So just those three main things. And then obviously working in, a tight knit group, bouncing ideas off of Andy, whether that be, he's responsible for power play and the D and stuff like that. So we work together, not that it's totally compartmentalized, but, those are kind of my main jobs when it's at the rink.
The game's going on, you're on the bench, what's your focus, while the game is actually being played?
Yeah, just a lot. Obviously, our philosophy is just to kind of worry about ourselves and our style of play. I think, it's part of the game to pre-scout and get ready for an opponent. But at the end of the day, if we're doing what we need to do to accomplish our goals, we'll be in a good spot. So, on the bench, I'm kind of looking to kind of see, how we're kind of processing the game, what we're doing poorly or good. And then obviously just kind of, the checklist of, watching, for example, Madison coming in this week, just kind of getting ready for them and what they do and kind of being familiar, seeing if they made any adjustments and, kind of just taking it all in. And, also our big thing is teaching, right? So, grabbing each guy after a shift and kind of dissecting what they saw or, teaching them, whatever the play may have been. So there's a little bit of everything and just kind of always teaching. I think that's something that we all do. And I think it's super important, obviously, in our league as a development league is to constantly give our guys feedback. And we strive on that. So I think that's a big part of it, but also, there's the whole, kind of coaching the game of, whether that be matching lineups or making in-game adjustments. So they're all kind of just depending on the situation.
So the Phantoms finished up the Fall Classic this past weekend. What is it like for you? You're a younger guy. You're a little bit closer in the age to the players than, say, I and Justin are. What do you, what's going through your head when you go to an event like the Fall Classic, where it's kind of a unique event and where, not only do you have all the USHL teams, you also have all these, kind of elite youth level teams there. What's going through your head, kind of thinking back to your days when you see that kind of just hockey atmosphere, just everybody coming together like that?
Yeah, it's super awesome. Our league does a great job with that weekend. It's super chaotic with, like you said, with all the youth teams that are in and out of the building, and then you have all the in-league games going on as well. So there's a lot going on. It's definitely a bit different than our normal day-to-day. Going in 2 weeks from now when at Cavelli, it's a little bit more relaxed. There's not a million people flying through the hallways and we're doing meetings on top of each other and stuff like that. There's definitely electricity in the building. And, I think it's an adjustment that, I think we kind of unfortunately saw for our young guys that first game is there's so many eyes on you. And it's such a, I hate to use the word, but coming out party for a lot of guys to kind of put their name on the map for the NHL draft and stuff like that. It's, there's a lot of pent up emotions and energy and nerves and excitement. So there's a lot of managing that. I think it's such a great event. Some of our guys were able to go up after practice on Thursday and Friday and see some teams play. So it's a little bit of a distraction for them. But at the end of the day, a hockey game is going to break out. And obviously it was a semi-successful weekend just because, splitting is not great, but, I thought we responded well on Sunday. So, for all things considered, it is a great event. Kind of chaotic for coaching staff. It's probably a little more enjoyable for the kids, but it was, I thought it was pretty successful.
How different is it for the players? 'Cause, we talked about on the last show, this was my first time actually getting to go to the Fall Classic, and you realize right away it's maybe not the fan friendliest of events. Probably 80% of the crowd that's there are scouts. What's going through a player's head trying to go out and play a game knowing you have all those eyes on you?
Yeah, we talked about it leading up into the week. It's a normal game. I mean, it's not going to be any different. Hopefully this year at the Kelly Center, we've got 4 or 5 guys that are legitimate NHL draft prospects. And when you go to the development team and play them, there's every NHL team's there. So it's easy to say once you kind of get in it and see it. And you start seeing, the different NHL teams wearing their jackets. It's not just their favorite team, but they work for that club and they're making assessment on players. It's a little bit different. And as much as, you try to prep your guys about, hey, like, let's just worry about us. They're obviously excited and they're kids and they have nerves too. So, it's a little bit of a distraction, but obviously it's a good distraction, because our league does such a good job with kind of branding and getting our guys, all the attention that they need and deserve.
All right. So to finish this up, once the Fall Classic is over, kind of just a quirk in the scheduling, once the Fall Classic's over, the Phantoms don't have a game for 18 more days. Now, when recording this, I believe we're at 13 days until the home opener. Just what are you doing to, kill time, in that span?
Yeah, we definitely saw this schedule, and it's been a topic of conversation on how to attack it with the coaching staff since probably the schedule came out. I think it's kind of a unique situation that I don't think many teams have kind of gone through. We had a very intense preseason with 8 exhibition games, so it was kind of hard to get a normal kind of feel for a training camp, just for, we started, whatever the report date was, we were on the ice for 2 days, and then we were playing Maryland. And then we had a day off and practiced once, then played Philadelphia, and then 2 days off, then we were playing Muskegon, and then in Chicago a day later. So it was kind of full pace. We were just jumping right into it and playing. And then finally kind of had that week before where, we're preparing for the Fall Classic and, having a little bit of a unique opponent in Waterloo brings some challenges. And then getting ready for that whole thing. But now these 13 days, we took a day off. We took our guys golfing and had a nice little event, a little scramble, which the coaching staff came on top. Which was always good. And then, just had our power skating coach come in, did some skill work and just kind of keeping our guys sharp. And then next week we'll kind of chew on, the adjustments that we need to make for our own game coming out of the Fall Classic and kind of working on that and doing some video to that extent. And then, like I said, getting ready for Madison. And, I think it'll be a kind of a good adjustment too, where, Cavelli, the ice is up now. So we're going to move in on Monday and practice for the first time. So it's actually kind of be all things considered, kind of a good little break, even though we're going to be full sprint all the way to the end now. But we've managed, and our guys have been great. The practices have been good. They've got good energy and focus.
All right, so we want to thank our guest, Phantoms assistant coach Brandon Gotkin, for joining us. I've tried not to be too hard on you, so being your first time. The second time it's going to be a whole different story, but for your first time, we'll take it easy on you. But thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with us. Yeah,
thank you for you, and I know we missed Justin here, but thank you so much for all your support. It's great, the stuff that you guys do and how much coverage you bring. I know we appreciate it a lot as a coaching staff, and our guys really appreciate it. So thank you so much for putting all this hard work in.
Hey, thank you. So with that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will be joined by associate head coach Andy Contois. So stick around. This is the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Advanced Podiatry has been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street in Howland Corners. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
And we're back with the Dump and Chase podcast brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. Our next guest on our tour of the Phantoms bench hails from Marquette, Michigan. Spent a year in the USHL with the Green Bay Gamblers, 4 years at Northern Michigan. Spent some time in the ECHL and in Europe. He is in his second season with the Phantoms. That is associate head coach Andy Contois. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Right away, I was told to ask you this story. We need to get this out of the way. Something about the putt on the 18th.
Yeah, was a lot of fun on Wednesday. We had a golf outing. All the guys were there, obviously. Let the captains make a couple teams. And then the coaches, obviously, we were the last team to play, and all the guys were hanging around the 18th green, and it came down. We needed a birdie 18 to force a playoff against Laubach's team. And Laubach, everybody was talking about, he's kind of the ringer. And yeah, we hit one close, and then I was fortunate enough to hit the putt to force the overtime. And the video is pretty electric, not going to lie. It's probably the closest I'll ever get to any sort of crowd for a golf game, but it was it was fun and it was good energy. And at the end of the day, I think it was really good team building, especially early in the year. A lot of guys still getting to know each other, and we had a lot of fun there. So it was good way to start the week. That's for sure. This next little stretch.
All right. So I asked Brandon, I'll ask you also. Now, you came in to the Phantoms after main camp last year. So going through this offseason where you get to be a part of the draft process, you get to be a part of main camp. What was that like for you this summer, being able to do these things that you didn't get to do last year?
I mean, it was awesome. Like, the biggest thing about main camp, the draft, obviously the GMs and assistant GMs, that's their main responsibility, is building our team. So for us, it's kind of, you're kind of a fly on the wall, giving opinions where you see fit. But at the end of the day, main camp for me, I just love it because you can start to build those relationships with the guys. You get to meet the guys that the scouts and the GMs have been talking about all year, that, and then you finally draft them and now they're part of your program, and now you get to put a name with the face. And, we watch a ton of video on guys, but to see them live for us is huge. And then, again, just building that relationship and getting to know them, if you're fortunate enough to meet their families, just to kind of get to know them and kind of set the stage for what you're going to get in the fall, as opposed to last year coming into it a little bit blind, not necessarily knowing, really what guys look like on and off the ice. I think that's a big part of, establishing the curriculum for the start of the year and kind of how you want the guys to play right out of the bat. So, main camp, I don't think you could ever replicate, the relationships and just the initial first viewing of those guys, because I think that's so impactful as a coach. All
right. And again, this was something we asked Brandon. You come in, it's game day, you come into the arena. As far as like before the game, during the game, what are your responsibilities? What are your focuses, when you come into a game day?
Game day, one of my first responsibilities is pre-scout, watching the opponent's last couple games, just getting an understanding of what they're doing. Normally on a game day, we'll show a pre-scout to the guys, so they have a better understanding of who are playing, what they're doing, a little bit about their personnel. Nothing too crazy. We want to be focused on what we're going to do, but the pre-scout is a big part of preparing for your opponent. And then my specific duties are the defensemen. I work with those guys hand in hand all year. Obviously run the D in the games, run the line changes, all the coaching, and then power play. I'm in charge of the power play here. So the pre-scout, all the stuff that goes along with that, getting the guys ready to play. And really all that stuff is led up all week. We're talking about who we're playing, and our focus in practice is to, ways to beat them, specifically on the power play. And then, before the game, we'll go through again a pre-scout of them, just some reminders for the guys, what the expectations are going out there.
All right. Well, since you brought up the defense, at the Fall Classic, we saw scoring seemed to be up a lot more than it has been in the past. I mean, is this, in your opinion, is this a continuation of maybe some teams focusing more on skill than they are on defense? Or does it just maybe take the defense a little bit longer at the beginning of the season to, get the kinks worked out?
I definitely think more than one thing is true. I do believe, though, that hockey in general is going more. It's becoming a more rush based offense, where teams are now really focused on scoring on the rush, generating on the rush. Obviously, it's a more exciting brand of hockey. But you see, even at the NHL level, like smaller, undersized, skilled players are becoming more and more impactful in the game, because I think it's just gone away from the big, heavy. When I played, everybody 6'4" and above basically had a free ticket to at least the American League, and then they kind of figured out they could play from there. Where now it's more an emphasis on skill, speed, your ability to think the game. So, and I think that's just matriculated into the USHL, and even at the younger levels, it's what you do with the puck, attacking with speed, and I think a lot of things factor into that. I mean, the guys now are just so much better as overall athletes. It's just kind of the way the game's gone. And so I think for our league, specifically early, that's what a lot of teams focus on. Early is how to create offense, because that's a big foundation of your team. And then, like you said, the defense kind of figures itself out as it goes. But on the flip side of that, I really like the way that we defended all of preseason. The Muskegon and the Chicago games, I think, were really good. I know their exhibition, but those are very, very close to USHL type games. And then obviously the Des Moines game, I thought we defended very well. So I was very happy with our defensive effort. But it's just a start. We got a long ways to go.
And coaching the power play, I'm pretty sure you were happy coming out of the Fall Classic.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy just because we hadn't worked on it. We had 8 games in 17 days, so we really only practiced a couple times. So, early in the year, to me, I'm a big believer in it's kind of the personnel and not the structure. But I think we're 21%, scored a couple of goals in the second game. I think that was a good start for us. But we got a long ways to go with the power play. With the defenseman, I'm very positive and reassuring. With the power play, I'm very detail oriented. So the guys will probably tell you, like, we'll get that dialed in, because we need to be better at that. And again, for not working at it, I think 20% is a good starting point, but we got a long ways to go, especially with some of the skill we have this year.
There's quite a few guys on the roster this season. They have a lot of eyes on them. They're being watched, all over the country by, more, colleges, various other leagues and things like that. Is it an issue to try to help keep them grounded? So maybe they don't get to the point where maybe they start believing their own hype a little bit and, getting a little tight out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you deal with it every year. I've been in this league. This will be going into my 4th year. You deal with it every year. Adam Ingram last year, I think, he was projected to go anywhere from 25th to 50th, almost throughout the whole course of the year. And even as a coach, I think you draw on the experiences and you kind of live vicariously through him, so that when you experience a similar, situation this year with, Whitelaw and Strathman and Fowler and Rossi and all these guys that are, have the potential to potentially be drafted, you kind of see how Ingy went through it, and you just kind of try to just, put them in situations where, the situation isn't too big for them or isn't too small for them. Because at the end of the day, they are who they are because they're very confident in their abilities as hockey players. And so I think sometimes that hype can help feed them, but it also can be a deterrent. So I think for us as coaches, it's just, make sure we're putting them in situations to succeed. And a lot of that comes back to Wardo and the GMs to, make sure that, they're not, getting 15 interviews a night or whatever, that they're remembering that they're still here to develop every day and to leave here not only better hockey players and better people, but with more confidence in their ability as hockey players. And sometimes the hype helps with that. And, if there's too much, that can hurt them. But again, as coaches going through that with Ingy last year, and, I had Michael Callahan, Tyler Madden, Paul Cotter, some guys that have gone through it as well. I've lived it with those guys. And I think that's, it's a big part of this level is not only making sure that they're doing everything they can to put themselves in the best situations, but also, not making sure that they're not being overwhelmed by the things that go along with that, because it is an amazing experience for them.
Now, speaking of Ingram, obviously he is missed in Youngstown, but is there a little bit of relief on the golf course that he's not there anymore? Or
Yeah. I'd like to play to them though. I love Ingy, but I think after a few holes, I could probably get under his skin pretty easy. So I get him off his game. I've heard he's quite he can throw his driver pretty far. I've heard that. Not only can he hit it far, he can also throw it pretty far. So, but yeah, great kid. I'd love to golf with him, but probably wouldn't bring my wallet that day.
So you're saying these guys can be as competitive on the golf course as they can be on the ice?
Yeah. That's one thing I think when you get a little older, you learn that golf is the release. You got to learn to enjoy it because when you're on the rink, it can be as intense as you can get. So
yeah, you don't need scrums on the links.
No.
So one last question for you. You spent some time, on buses traveling around the Midwest, also some bus travel in Europe. Which, I mean, as far as the sightseeing, which would you prefer? Because I imagine the Midwest is just a lot of cornfields.
Yeah, the Bavarian Alps in Germany. Those are some pretty fun bus rides going through the mountains and stuff like that. So definitely the sightseeing's better in Europe. I will say though, the sleeper bus we have here in Youngstown is second to none. That you can get on that thing. That's about as good a night of sleep as you'll get. So there's no windows, so you're not really looking outside, but when you travel and you fall asleep and you wake up and you feel like you've been sleeping for 10 minutes and it's been 8 hours and you're in Dubuque, like that's a pretty cool thing. Cause those bus trips, like you said, can get long, but I love riding the bus. I loved it as a player. I love it as a coach. Just something about it. I just love being around the guys, and it's something that it's why I do this. So.
All right, so we've been talking to the Phantoms associate head coach, Andy Contois. Andy, hey, thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with us.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, so it's time for another break. On the other side, we'll be talking with the head coach of the Phantoms, Ryan Ward. So keep it right here with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Join Stars photographer BA and Off-Ice official Gene Cotter for Thunderstruck, the unofficial Lincoln Stars podcast, where we talk with your favorite Lincoln Stars players, coaches, and alumni.
It was a great night, yeah. Beat them in their own rink just before the buzzer. It was something special for sure.
I don't want to call it a surprise because I knew that there was a great, rich history for hockey here in Lincoln, but I was really happy to see the fans come back in droves and be such a great supporter for us.
I think he's copying some NHLer he's looking up to, but I don't know. I think it's dusty. I think a lot of guys think it's sick, though.
To let him in penalty minutes back before they handed out those little 10-minute wussy misconducts on everything.
Thunderstruck the podcast, all season long, right here on the Anchor app or wherever you find your favorite podcast.
And we're back right here on the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. And our next guest needs no introduction, but I kind of biffed it the last time, so we're going to do this again. He's an Assonet, Massachusetts native, former video coach for the New York Islanders and Toronto Maple Leafs, head coaching stops at Selects Academy and the Windy City Storm, and he is starting his first season with the Youngstown Phantoms. Of course, I am talking about head coach Ryan Ward. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Great to be here, guys.
Now, I'm overcompensating because the first time you were on the show, I looked up the wrong Ryan Ward. That Ryan apparently had a little more of a successful hockey career.
Yeah, most Ryan Wards probably would have.
Oh, yeah.
I will say Andy laughed at that too. So, yeah. So the first time we talked to you, you were pretty much chewing holes in the wall, waiting for September to get here. So you finally get into, August and September, just this crush of preseason games in a short period of time. You get to the Fall Classic and now nothing.
Yeah. No, it's been a unique first set of, the first 8 weeks here have been a little bit unique, but I'll tell you what, coming into camp, you want to hit the ground running and kind of put the pedal to the metal and see where our guys are at. And I think we had a great training camp. I think we learned a lot about our group. Obviously we're a young group, so that experience in the preseason will resonate with us throughout the year. And I think that these 18 days off gave us a chance to sharpen our pencil on some things that we saw at the Fall Classic that we need to work on. And it gave us also a chance to bond a little bit as a group together. So I think, anytime you have a unique set of circumstances, you make the best of them. And I certainly feel like we've done that.
All right. So you go into the Fall Classic, obviously the game with Waterloo, a little bit of a rough entry. Then the game on Sunday with Des Moines, you get your first win as a head coach at the junior level. Now, obviously, the answer typically is, well, all the people that helped me along and everything else like that. But just for you, just the work you've put in, climbing up to this level, what did that first win mean to you personally?
Yeah, I think you think about all of, the stops along the way. And it's funny, when you're younger as a coach, you're in a rush to get to where you want to go. And I think that coming into this year, you're just happy to be where your feet are, right? And I think for me, obviously my family, my wife, my kids, we've been all over North America. And I think just it's always been my goal to be a head coach in junior and to be able to get that experience and that first win and that, those first 2 games behind the bench. I think more than anything, you're just grateful for the opportunity. And I think for me and our staff and our players, they did a great job. The Fall Classic, we had a 3-minute blow up against Waterloo. And then I thought we responded excellent against Des Moines. So just to be honest, just more grateful and feeling gratitude and excited about what the future holds here with our team.
Now, you probably don't get as much time as you typically would, playing at home. What was the locker room like after the win on Sunday?
Yeah, we've all kind of talked about the marathon that is the season. And I think the guys felt good going into the 18-day break, that we had a good feeling and they earned a good feeling. And the players, we had some honest conversations Sunday morning about, staying in the moment and making sure that we're steady on the rudder here as the whole season progresses. But certainly the guys did a great job on Sunday responding, and they played hard. And that emotion and energy at the Fall Classic is really, really hard to replicate. You look up in the stands and you have a million black coats looking at you, and everyone's evaluating our players. And obviously we have some draft eligible guys and some drafted players that inherently put pressure on themselves. So I think to come out of there 1-1 and earn a good feeling going into this long break that we had was a huge testament to our players' resolve.
An anecdote for what you just said about looking around and seeing, all the black coats and all the eyes on you. For the second game, I was standing down glass level, probably about 20 feet from William Whitelaw's future college coach, Tony Granado. And yeah, I don't know if Whitelaw could see him. I'd be willing to bet he did.
Yeah, I think there's a great clip coming out where Will actually winked at Tony after he scored that game-winning goal.
I was wondering about. I didn't see the wink, but I saw the look there, and I'm just standing down there watching it, kind of geeking out because it's Tony Granado.
Yeah, no, Will usually has a good pulse for where Coach Granado is.
That's a good thing. You don't want to be on Tony's bad side, I imagine.
Yeah. Now a lot of the talk that, going into this season, you're talking about the Whitelaws, the Strathmans, the Fowlers, the Fishers, maybe the ones coming up in the draft, the ones that have already been drafted. There was a couple names I wanted to bring up to you, just kind of especially like the USHL portion of the preseason, and then going through the Fall Classic. A couple of guys that really, really impressed me out on the ice, Jake Rossi and Connor DeHaro. What can you say about these guys? Because, they were two players who really stood out to me the past few weeks.
Yeah, I think Connor DeHaro is a young defenseman who is has unlimited potential in his game. I think when we see how far he's come just in the preseason, he defends well. He has excellent vision moving the puck. He's not afraid to join the rush, and he's just going to keep getting better and better. And we're excited about Connor. He does a great job in his own end, and I think he's a pleasure to coach. He's a great kid. He's a great teammate. So really embodies what we're looking for here, in a Youngstown Phantom athlete. Jake Rossi is a player that I coached at U15 at Selects Academy. Jake had 117 points that year, and he is a supremely talented player. His vision, his stick skills, his ability to slow the game down in his own brain. I think Jake needed a fresh start, and I think Jake, was confident coming in here that he had a coach that believed in him, that he had staff that wanted him here. And he's a great kid, and he's someone that we expect to take a step here this year and be a playmaking winger that really complements anyone he's with.
Another player I want to bring up, and that is the one who was named the Phantoms team captain this season, Shane LaChance. I mean, was that an easy decision for you? I mean, obviously, you have a lot of great guys on this team, but was Chancer the easy choice?
Yeah, Shane is a guy that he's a pro, and all of his habits and details, his work ethic, and the most important thing, I think people take for granted the rigor that's on these kids throughout an entire season. Shane is a guy that is always even keel. He stays in the moment, and he's a mentor to our entire team, regardless of age or position or draft standing or depth chart. Shane is someone that takes all these guys under his wing, and he leads by example, and he sets such a positive tone in the locker room. So the choice was really easy for me. I've said this a bunch in the media, but Shane and I met this summer and spoke for about 3 hours on the team and my plans and what we were, they're coming out of in the past. And we had a very candid conversation. It was like talking to a member of the staff. And I think that makes it real easy for the coach when I can call Chancer, or we can just, talk for a few minutes, and he really understands the pulse of the group. And at the end of the day, like coaching's coaching and coach is coach, but it's their locker room. It's the guys' locker room, and the culture that they build and how hard they work is going to carry us. So we can do whatever we want tactically. If you don't have that culture and the leadership in the locker room, you're really not going to get very far.
All right. So to wrap this up, since you've come to the Phantoms, you've basically, the team's been working out at Deep Freeze and everything else. How exciting is it to finally get into the Covelli Center?
Yeah, I think we have a great setup here, and I've said this more often than not. Like this place can be the premier place to play in the USHL. I believe that wholeheartedly. So we have a great setup at the Deep Freeze when we have to practice there, and obviously the ownership group has put a ton of resources into our program, and we have a state-of-the-art gym now that would rival NHL teams. And I think that's something that's really exciting for us. And obviously getting to our game rank, and we redid the locker room at Covelli, and just making little changes. We have a great setup. I mean, the locker room and the setup at Covelli is, would be in the top half of the American Hockey League. So we are very fortunate to be where we are. Getting into Covelli and practicing there at our game rink is going to be awesome. And we're excited to start our front of our season here next Thursday against Madison.
Before we let you go, I'm going to have you take the coach's hat off, put the lawyer's hat back on. You probably haven't worn it in a long time. If you got somebody sitting on the fence about maybe coming to a Phantoms game, how are you selling them on coming to the Covelli Center and watching this team?
Yeah, I think, listen, at the end of the day, we have 5 NHL draft picks on our team. We have another at least 3 that are draft eligible this year that have a lot of hype around them. It's when you're talking about watching future stars play, there's no better place to watch than Youngstown. Our arena is beautiful. It's in a great spot. I personally love downtown. I think it's coming back. I think it's a great little setup for us. And you get to see the future stars in the NHL right here in Youngstown. So to me, we play an exciting brand of hockey. I think our guys care. They want to play well in front of our fans. And obviously we want to make the Covelli Center somewhere where our opponents are scared to play in.
All right, so we have been talking with Phantoms head coach Ryan Ward. Ryan, thanks for coming back, helping us out. We will see you next weekend, and we can't wait for the home schedule to get kicked off here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure, and look forward to seeing you at the Covelli Center next Thursday.
All right, and with that, we are going to be taking our final break. When we come back, we will wrap up this episode. You are listening to the Dump and Chase podcast right here on Western Reserve Radio. We're back, and that will do it for this episode. A big thanks to Brandon Gotkin, Andy Contois, and Ryan Ward for coming on and giving us their unique look at the Phantoms. And we also want to thank our sponsor, the Offices of Advanced Podiatry. For more information, check out advancedpodiatry.com. You can find us on Twitter. Justin is at YTHockeyFan, that's PHAN, and I am at dump_chasepod. Justin is also on Facebook at facebook.com/YTHockeyFan. You can also find the show on Western Reserve Radio and their many platforms, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. All of these links can be found on our Linktree page, and the link to that can be found in the description of however you are currently listening to this episode. And don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe on these various platforms. We do this show for all of you, and the feedback helps us to make it a better show. So, Justin, any final words of wisdom or random movie or TV quotes you'd like to end the show with?
Hey, Laser Lips, your mama was a snowblower.
Yeah, that works. And I did not give you a heads up on that, so that works really well. So for Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. Thank you for tuning in, and we will talk with you all next week. Bye now.